So yesterday, my dog had an appointment at the vet, and it was an early morning appointment. So I had to take it to the vet. But the thing is, the last time I took my dog to the vet, I put it on the back seat of my car, and it messed up the back seat of my car. It slobbered everywhere. And that kind of upset me because I had to spend time washing the interior of the car. And I said, next time I'm taking this dog to the vet, I would need to take out the back seat. So when I had to go yesterday, my plan was to take out the back seat and to put the dog in the car without the back seat so it wouldn't have the opportunity to slobber and to scratch up anything. But the thing is, I didn't know how to take out the back seat of a car. So I called my mechanic because I'd seen him do it before, but I wasn't paying attention. And I called him early in the morning and I said, please, can you just stop by my house? And I need to take out the back seat of my car because I have an appointment with the vet and I need to put my dog in the back seat. And I told him if he comes over, I would pay for his transportation and stuff like that. He should just come over on his way to work. And then he told me, sir, I would have come over, but I'm not around. I'm outside Abuja right now. I'm doing a job outside Abuja and I won't be back till tomorrow. So here I was, I had this vet appointment and I still had the back seat in there and I didn't want to take my dog in the car with the back seat in there anymore. But then he told me something. He said, sir, I can tell you how to do it. And I said, okay, tell me how to do it. So he instructed me on how to take out the back seat of the car. And I went and I did it and I took out the back seat of the car. And I was able to get my dog in to the vet. We came back from the vet, put the back seat back. He told me how to put it back in and everything was done smoothly. And I had a feeling in me that I want to share with you today after doing this what seemed like a pretty simple task. It was a feeling of achievement. It wasn't a great task. It wasn't a world-changing task. But for me, I felt very good about it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. You see, I strongly believe that one of the greatest gifts any parent can give their children, a great gift any parent can give their children, is the gift of a middle class upbringing. One of the greatest gifts you can give your children is the gift of a middle class upbringing. Now, there are three classes, at least three broad classes. There's the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class in society. Upper class, middle class, and the lower class. And a lot of us strive to get into the upper class. That's not bad. That's not bad, to be honest with you. To want to get into the upper class is not bad. But even if you get into the upper class, my strong advice is to always give your children a middle class upbringing. The middle class is probably the broadest of all the classes because I think it's the only class that is divided into two. So you have the upper middle class, the lower middle class, but it's very accommodating. Fortunately, it's a very accommodating class. It has so many people, followed by the lower class. And then the upper class is the smallest place with, very little room. There aren't too many people there. I don't know if all these other classes are segmented, but I'm sure the middle class is segmented into upper middle class and the lower middle class. Whatever the case, it doesn't matter what part of the middle class you're in, whether you're in the upper middle class or the lower middle class. But you must give your children a middle class upbringing. I see a lot of people with middle class upbringing complain about it a lot. But it's a gift. A child with a middle class upbringing is the most blessed. If you have three children, one with an upper class upbringing, one with a lower class upbringing, and the third one with a middle class upbringing, the most blessed, the best positioned is the one with the middle class upbringing. A lot of people do not see it that way. Say, oh, why? 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 You want to tell me a child with an upper class upbringing, how is that not more blessed than someone with a middle class upbringing? This is what I want to tell you about three things. Three things that we all need to pay attention to. You see, the child with the middle class upbringing is blessed with something called challenges. Challenges. A lot of us see challenges as a terrible word, something to evade, something to avoid, something that isn't good. A lot of people pray against challenges. We want what is now termed the soft life, soft girl life, soft boy life. Those are not good things to pray for. Soft life. It isn't. A life absent of challenges is a diseased life. In itself, the entire life becomes a challenge. The middle class child is faced with challenges. What does it mean to be middle class? You see, what it means to be middle class is to have some things, but not have them exactly the way we want them. To have some things, but they are coming with commas and question marks, not full stops. To have some things that still leave you with questions and leave you with desires. To have things, but to have them in an unfinished way. The middle class have education, but they have education in such a way that they still have questions. The middle class, they have food, but not always the food that they desire to eat. The middle class get to travel, but not always to the places they want or by the means they desire. The middle class live in neighborhoods, but neighborhoods that don't provide them with everything. They have things that they need to provide for themselves. To be middle class is to be going on a journey. And midway, the vehicle taking you on the journey drops you off and turns back and tells you to figure out the way yourself all the way to the end. So you're only taking midway. That's what it means to be middle class. Midway is a midway journey. The other half, figure out yourself. We've helped you halfway. What it means to be middle class is to get things only half your desired. Half the way it should be done. Half finished. The other half is what we call challenges. Figuring out the other half. And this is what a lot of middle class people disdain, not knowing that this is the blessing of being middle class. Figuring out the other half. To be upper class is for you to have your journey totally complete. It's a life without commas, question marks, It's a life with full stops. All you need to do is to read through. You get an education that explains everything plus more. You eat what you desire, when you desire, how you desire. You live in places that don't only provide basic amenities, but even luxuries. You wear clothes or have clothes you don't even need, clothes you're not even aware of. You travel anywhere you want, anyhow you want, in the best way. Your challenges have been overcome for you. This is called privilege. Privilege is when your challenges have been overcome for you. Before you meet them, they are gone. They do not exist anymore. If I had an upper class upbringing, I might not even have to go to the vet office. The vet will come to my house and take care of the dog. So I wouldn't have any challenge of having to detach the back seat of my car. If I had to at all, I would have a car that has a place I can put the dog, maybe a truck or something, without having to detach anything. I wouldn't have to think of how to overcome that challenge. But the problem is, I would learn very little. That's the problem of privilege. Learning is very little. Privileged children don't learn a lot. They are exposed to a lot. They are offered a lot. But challenges, in the place of challenges, is where we learn. This is where we grow as human beings. This is where potential is tapped. Potential needs challenges to grow, to express itself. Potential needs challenges. Without challenges, we do not grow. We do not express our full potential. My wife showed me a video about 2 days ago, and this video had profound impact on me. It made me think, it made me sober. I don't know how many of you have seen this video. But it's a video of a bird, a young bird, a chick. And the chick was going after a worm on the floor. But the chick had its mouth wide open and just going after the worm. Not pecking the worm, not killing the worm, not stepping on it to stop the worm, just expecting the worm to jump into its mouth. And for a while I watched this video, the first time I watched it, I was kind of surprised, and I didn't know what to make of it. I said, why is this bird not eating this worm and just opening its mouth and following the worm behind, going behind the worm and following it? And my wife told me, because it's expecting the worm to just fall into its mouth, because that's what it learned in the nest. In the nest, all he had to do to get the worm in his mouth was just to open the mouth. And there you have it, a worm in your mouth. That's what the mother did for it. Just takes the worm and puts it in the mouth. So the only action needed was to open your mouth. And now here was this chick, alone, no mother, on the ground, not in a nest, not knowing how to eat the food right in front of it. This is what privilege does to us. Those challenges of capturing the worm had been done for it already. And so the chick was fat, but the chick was stupid. Challenges had not built in it the potential it had to capture a worm. Privilege can be a dangerous thing. It can be sweet, but it can be very dangerous. So some of you might say, okay, so that means the lower class should be the most blessed since they have no privilege at all. That means they have all challenges. And this is where we do not understand what the word challenge means. Challenge means availability without ability. Availability without ability. We misuse that word challenge. When you have a challenge in your marriage, what it means is that you have a marriage in the first place, but you do not know how to handle it. When you have a challenge in your education, it means you have an education in the first place, availability of education, but you do not have the ability to handle it. That's what a challenge is. It means you have something, but you don't have a know-how. This is not what the lower class possess. The lower class do not have. So there is absence of education. There is absence of food. There is absence of clothing. There is absence of travel. There is absence. This is not a challenge. This is called a limitation. Limitations are terrible things. I watched a video the other day. It's about a guy, there's a particular page on Instagram. A guy has one eye missing. I think the one eye was diseased or had an accident. I don't know how he lost the eye. But so he said people always asking the question, what does he see from that eye, from that socket in that eye that is missing? You know, it's kind of a silly question, but then that's what the question. That does he see black from that eye? And he said, the eye is not there at all. He doesn't see anything. There's no black, no white, no red, no nothing. The eye is not there at all. So he tried to give an example. It's like asking you, what do you see from your elbow? And said, you don't see anything from your elbow. You don't even perceive that anything can be seen from the elbow. He said, that's exactly what that eye is to him. The body has totally disconnected it as an outlet for seeing. It's just flesh right now. He doesn't see black. He doesn't see red. He doesn't see jack from it. The eye is not available. You see, and I was saying, it's when the eye is available that when you close your lids that you see black. He said there's nothing there, so it doesn't feel anything. There's no sight. That place doesn't register with sight anymore. That place is limited. There's no challenge. It's when you have a challenge, the eye is still there, but you can say, oh, my eye has a foil over it. So how you might say you have cataracts or something, it's a challenge. So you're seeing in a blurry way. I use glasses. I'm short-sighted. I can't see things that are far off. That's a challenge. Someone without eyes has a limitation. That is what the lower class have, limitations. Nothing. I would have said that's a terrible thing to give your children, but it's nothing to give your children. The truth of the matter is, there aren't that many people. And when I say that many people, I'm saying comparatively. They might go into their millions if you look at it in the world. But that many people with nothing, they are not as many as we make it out to seem. A lot of people are lower middle class. They might send their children to school. It might be a school where they do one subject every month. But it's still school. It's still a very challenging situation. It's not an absence. People who have nothing to eat at all they eat is sand, are very few, if you're going to be honest with ourselves. People might eat things that are low in nutrition, 1 meal a day, but it's still a meal. It's a very challenging situation. But this is a limitation. It's a limitation. This is a cursed situation. I have no other word for that. It's a cursed situation. You never want to find yourself there. Limitations. It's a terrible place to be. A lot of times, to be in a place of limitations, it means to totally not even have parents. Totally. Not even irresponsible parents. I'm talking about not having them at all. When you read the story of the prodigal son, he was a privileged child. Who decided to totally limit himself. You see, so he was a privileged child and he fell down the ladder when he took his inheritance totally. And then at the point he was living a challenging life, and then he was totally limited, where he had nothing to eat. He wanted to start eating with pigs. That's nothing. No food at all. That pig's food became attractive to him. He went from privilege to challenge to limited. But then what you want to give your children is a middle class experience. It allows us to learn. Challenges allow us to learn. But we try to evade challenges because we want the soft life. Soft life never helps you to build up to your full potential. It will never help you. You see, I was talking with a friend of mine from school, from the university last week, and we talk every week. I'm very conscious about talking with him. And last week when we were talking, we kind of asked ourselves, why do we keep talking? But we had other friends. Why are we still talking, you and I? Why did other people fall off? And we spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I had to ask myself, why do I like talking with you? And I had to ask himself, why does he like talking with me? And we came to a conclusion. That we had both become different people. We had both grown. And so some of the people that we went to school with, some of them had not grown. Some of them were the same people. Some of them, not like they're not grown, but we just didn't have contact with them anymore. Your life just took us apart. But some of them, you have their phone number, you don't call them. Because when you call them, there's nothing to say. Nothing. And it was because I realized that some of them are not grown. You understand? Some are not grown. And he told me, Tola, I like talking to you because you've grown. And you've grown because of your challenges. I can see that you've grown. You're not the same Tola from school. You are more mature. You've seen life. You overcome some challenges. So I love talking to you. And I told him the same thing too. I like talking to you because you've been through some tough times. You are going through a tough time right now. So every time I talk to you, there is new wisdom in you. So we're both growing into our full potential. But what we realized is that a lot of people after school, especially after school, we always think after school, There should be no challenges anymore. I've done the work in school. It's time to eat the fruit of my labor. I studied for exams. I need a good job to lounge and to relax in now. So people start evading challenges. You see, in school, we run towards challenges. What it means is when you go into school, they're already telling you that there will be tests, there will be exams, there will be grades, there will be failures, there will be success. So you expect those challenges. And then you begin to toughen yourself and read and begin to test your brain and begin to push because you know there are challenges. When you go from year 1 to year 2, you know that there will be exams. You know that there will be tests. You know some people will fail, some people will do well, and you want to be among the people that do well. So you prepare yourself for challenges and you keep preparing yourself. But when we leave school, a lot of us are not told that there are challenges out there. A lot of us are not told that there are challenges. So we start evading challenges. So when you are told, oh, to get this job, you need to do an exam, and which one don't I need to do an exam for? When you get to work, your boss gives you something to do, it's very testing. You're like, I don't like this work. It's a very toxic environment. My boss talks to me anyhow. Because you don't expect challenges. You just thought the last person to talk to you anyhow should be your lecturer. So when the boss talks to you anyhow, immediately resignation. I hate this job. Toxic environment. Because you just expect life to be pleasant immediately after school. That's why a lot of people do not grow again after school. When you see a job pays you very little, but the work experience is good, you're like, no, I don't want that job. I want one that pays me high, even if it's boring. Because you don't want challenges anymore. Meanwhile, while you were in school, if you had someone doing a class for a course that is very hard, and they're asking you to empty your allowance so that you can pass one course to get an A, you will empty it because you want to overcome that challenge. But when you go out, you're not willing to do the same. You want to gain money, you don't want to lose money anymore because you feel after school comes the jackpot. That's why a lot of people, you realize that when you leave school, you don't enjoy talking to people you used to talk to anymore. What changed? Because in school, you were both in challenges. So you used to talk about pain. You used to talk about failure. You used to talk about sickness. You used to talk about heartbreak. But you see that same person, when you leave school, you're like, what's going on? Not just interesting anymore. Because that person is evading challenges and they're not growing into who they're meant to be anymore. You see, when I left school, it was the era when banks were hiring everybody. Banks were the highest payer. The highest paying employers were banks. It was the banking era when I left school. So I have some people who we studied architecture together. Some people I didn't study architecture with them, but I know they studied something else, but they went into banking because they didn't want the challenge of earning very little doing their studied course. So they went for the easy one, bank. And you see that what happened with most of those people that I have as friends was we stopped talking. Because in the end, there was nothing to talk about. It was just, okay, I went to my work today. I closed at this time. I have my wardrobe allowance. They just gave me a car. They just gave me this. There was no challenges. So I saw that they weren't growing. They were growing materially, but intellectually, they weren't growing. They became boring to talk to. They were learning very little. So when you talk with them, you learned very little. But the ones that were out, getting rejections, working for very little, you understand, having challenges, most of them will still talk today. Because you will see deep wisdom come from these people. You'll be like, this guy, you changed though. You've changed. But I have to change you because I've seen. I've been faced with challenges. Challenges give us the privilege of knowing. And this is where I was starting from. That was the feeling I felt yesterday. When I removed that car seat and I put it back, I realized I had the privilege of knowing how to remove a car seat. I felt like one more brick was added to me as a human being. Some of you don't know how to change car tires because you are privileged. Some of you don't know how to make a cup of tea because you are privileged. Some of you go about ranting on social media about how hard your life is because your life has been too privileged. So any slight challenge, you see it as a curse because you've become addicted to the stupidity that comes from privilege. Some of you, the best thing that would happen to you is to be taken from where you are to where there's hardship. That's why you realize for some people, their life-changing experience is what they call NYSC. NYSC. Because it yanks them from a place of privilege. Some people, primary school, where they lived in Lagos. Secondary school, Lagos. University, Lagos. Their job, Lagos. Their life, Lagos. And then an institution called NYSC, even with all the flaws. Yes, I know it has flaws. I know. Very checkered. But then it does something. It does something that I highly commend. It plucks somebody from their place of privilege and puts them in a place of challenges. Some of you, your life changed because you did NYSC in a particular place. You learned to speak another language and see how much more that has played out in your life. I remember talking to someone once and the person just started speaking another language. Where did they say, I did my NYSC in the north and stuff like that. And it was so beautiful. How I was able to speak languages and get us through, markets and just dialogue with people. Challenges are a gift. That is why middle class people make the best leaders. Middle class people make the best leaders. They do. Privileged children don't. Have you ever wondered why somebody that is so privileged might say they are a singer, but they don't sing well? They'll tell you they're a dancer, but they don't dance well. They'll tell you they DJ, but they don't DJ well. They're always mocking them. And like, how can you be so... the other day I was on TikTok and I was watching this privileged child trying to sing. And I was like, doesn't this guy have friends around him telling him he can't sing? The song was terrible. With all the privilege, he had not faced the challenge of rejection. Of someone telling him, get out of here, this song is rubbish. Everybody's singing, you are singing too. That shame of rejection, he had not faced it. People don't understand that the best songwriters write from a place of pain. They dip their pen into blood, then write out lyrics. The best ones, the deepest lyrics, from pain. Privileged people don't know how to write. Write books, write poetry, write anything. There's no pain. There's no challenge. So potential is just latent at all times. No pain. No challenge. I spoke to a girl many years ago. She's a woman now, runs a printing press. And the time I saw some of the prints she has done, I said, this incredible work. And I told her, tell me your story. Because she had written a book and she wanted me to write a foreword to the book. So we got talking. And I said, tell me your story. How did you get into this? She said, sir, I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have a computer to work with. So what I had to do was, I had a neighbor that had a laptop. I knew my neighbor had a laptop. So I knew he would go to work and come back in the night. In the night, I would beg him to give me his laptop, that I would bring it back before he wakes up the next day so I don't sleep that night, so that I can get to do graphic design. That blew my mind. See, what challenges do is that they make you ideate. She looked around and said, what is the idea I can have? Ideation. So she said, my neighbor has it. How can I get my neighbor's laptop? Because he takes it to work every single day. But I realized that he comes back from work and I know that he sleeps. Nobody uses their laptop when they sleep. So I'm going to make use of that time. I was so impressed. So I had little wonder how she went from having no laptop to owning a printing press. I didn't ask her anymore. I'm like, you learned how to solve problems. So I don't need to ask you how you were able to raise up money to have this printing press. Because she's always living up to her potential. She didn't have it handed out to her. She wasn't that bird chasing the worm, hoping the worm would jump into her mouth. She had learned how to kill a worm. If you put this lady in a leadership position, she would apply the same. Because she has learned empathy. She knows what it is to have something with a comma, to have something with a question mark, to be going on a journey and to be left midway to figure out the rest by yourself. These are the people that make the best leaders. Privileged children don't. I had the dishonor of listening to a privileged child make a speech yesterday, and it didn't sound good. I said dishonor because I cringed when I watched it. Didn't sound really good. Didn't sound good at all. And I said, this person has an Ivy League education. Ivy League, I have no doubt, Ivy League education. And this person cannot speak to move a hair on people's skin. Doesn't know how to use the words. Doesn't know how to capture emotions because the person has not felt those emotions. So the person doesn't know the emotion of pain. So he can't talk from a place of pain. He's talking from his head, not from his heart. This is a disservice that privilege does to us. Look, a lot of us strive to be upper class. But one thing I will tell you is when you do become upper class, if you do become upper class, be privileged enough to give your children a middle class upbringing. It's a ridiculous thing to have little children have their own personal needs. They don't know how to make their beds themselves, clean their rooms, wash their clothes. They're destroying those children. Living a soft but stupid life. Whenever you talk about soft life, know it comes with a twin brother called stupid. They come together. Soft comes with stupid. That's what privilege does. That's exactly what privilege does. There's no empathy. No empathy. They have no idea. Clueless. The truth is that middle class people are we have the wrong mentality because we hate it being middle class. We see challenges as a curse. So what we do is that a lot of middle class people work their way into becoming upper class. And because they do not see the value in challenges, they raise privileged children. And so middle class people always raise a generation of people that are stupid. Give your children challenges. Give them middle class challenges. Let them use public transport. Let them travel by road. Let them have less clothes than they need. Let them repeat one food every night for 3 days. Give them as much challenges as you can that causes them to think, causes them to empathize. This is my advice for middle class people. We need to stop raising stupid, privileged children. We must stop saying, my kid must not suffer what I suffered. What you suffered is what got you to where you are. Challenges are important. Give your kids challenges. Let them go to classes where there are no ACs. Let them travel economy. Let them travel to villages. Let them go for NYSC. Stop trying to think of how to exempt them from it. They get to meet real people there. One of the greatest gifts you can give a child is a middle class upbringing. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and this is the TA Podcast.